Hey, what's going on everyone? This is JoeYoursTruly back with another video, and today we're going to be doing the tier list for version 0.13. Just a disclaimer, as always, this is just my opinion at the end of the day, and even though I do a lot of research and try to give you guys my best unbiased opinion on what picks are strong and what picks are just kind of lacking, this is just only my opinion. And another disclaimer I want to try to give out is this is going to be sort of a more tier list gear for like solid keywords and for more like in the middle of the pack. When I say middle of the pack, I mean like I guess in the terms that you guys are familiar with, like the gold, platinum, elo, because most of the player base are always going to be kind of sitting around the gold, elo, and then when you once you get to like diamond or master, that's only like the top 5% or something really kind of small. So whenever I try to do this tier list, I try to give you guys what key recommendations based on where most of the population is at, because when you guys look at other MOBAs like League of Legends, for example, they have different tier lists for different elos, and a lot of it just comes down to player skill, players knowledge, and knowing how to counter certain heroes or just know how to play some of them, right? So try to give you guys just a solid good tier list that's gonna fit the needs of most of you guys right here. So just a quick breakdown of this heroes for those who are new to the channel is that I consider T1 heroes to be just always good no matter what. So regardless of the matchup the team up, these are the heroes are going to be the best performers on the patch and just really solid picks all around. And so tier 2 is going to be kind of like the heroes that are strong but can be hard counter or just have some bad matchups in general. They're really good but you don't like want to always run them, if that makes sense. Tier 3 are the heroes that are going to be kind of like the average Joe, so like good overall heroes that probably requires a lot more player skill to make really good use out of, or they're just solid heroes, but they're not particularly like really strong like the Tier 1 and Tier 2 heroes as comparison. Tier 4 heroes are going to be the heroes that really require either a lot of player skill or it's just they're sort of just underwhelming, right? So, and then Tier 5 is going to be the heroes that they're always going to be very lackluster regardless of player skill or knowledge on that kind of hero. So without further ado, let's kind of jump straight into this. Of course, we're going to be starting with the fiery duo of Iggy and Scorch right here, and we are actually going to be putting him into tier 1, and it is actually a little surprising to see a little different opinions on this, because for those who were around for the last hero that was released is Race. And the interesting thing about Race is that when he first launched, I saw a lot of bipolar opinions on this character. Well, he's either like the most strongest like mid laner carry character, or just the weakest, and a lot of it just has to do with just player skill, and that kind of goes to the whole point of how I'm doing this tier list. I'm trying to think of heavily on the person that's going to be piloting these heroes ought to be like the average Joe, like the average kind of player, not necessarily the newest players, but also not the like the most expert kind of heroes, right? So when I look at Iggy and Scorch, I saw like some bipolar opinions not as strong as the Race, but I hear people saying that he's either like a top 3 melee easily, or other people say that he's also just really weak. And I kind of disagree with the whole like sentiment that Iggy Scorch is like on the weaker side. If anything, I actually think he's above average, easy top 3 also is my opinion on this hero. And I think part of the reason why people think he's just kind of lackluster is due to the fact that he's a DOT or damage over time mage, and when you have these kind of DOT characters, they give a lot of value and long fights for the trade-off for not having that big burst initial of damage. So when you like look at Guinea, for example, when you land a fat Q on someone late game, that hurts. You see that damage number, you see how half of their health bar gone, you're like, oh my god, Guinea just slaps, right? But Iggy doesn't really have that kind of same feeling. What really makes Iggy really strong is his high sustained damage, and that's kind of what makes Iggy and Mortgage like very interesting DOT mages, is that they trade off a lot of that initial burst damage to have a high sustained DPS, because sort of like what said mages differently from carries, because both carries and mages are very heavy DPS focused characters, but the difference between the two is that the carries always will have that high sustained damage, minus like some heroes like Raze, and whereas mages have a lot more of that burst DPS, right? So mages will often like lack in terms of like dealing with tanks, because they have high DPS, but the tanks can just eat that up and then trigger up and just run that. Then with ADCs, if they keep railing on the tanks, that high sustained damage will eventually bring down tanks. So the interesting thing about the Mortgage and like Iggy right here is that they're DOT mages, and so they actually have high sustained damage that makes them actually really good into more of the beefier front lines. Like when you think of like the Crunch, the Greystone, the Rampage. Iggy and Scorch is a DO2 mage that can actually be really strong into them. And it's actually really interesting thing to note out too, is because especially with the new items like Berserker's Axe, Giant's Ring, Elephars, even Foster Lure, new items coming into play, it's starting to look like kind of getting to the more Bruiser tank meta again, because a lot of the new items are like the Bruiser tank items, right? So it's now you get to see a little bit when I get to do more and more of these heroes, but I'm gonna start to favor a lot of these kind of tankier beefier front lines higher up, because they just benefit a lot from the new items. And so of course, with all these kind of tanks and bruisers running around becoming much more empowered with the new items, one of the better answers to them is to have that high sustained damage. So of course carries will always be really good, but also DOT mages. And it's kind of like one of the big reasons why I'm considering Iggy Scorch to be T1, is because with this sort of tank bruiser meta starting to form with the new items, Iggy Scorch is a very good answer to all of these tanks running around. Because like they just shred them, like they take really good advantage of Mega Cosm, and the whole kit just screams sustained DPS. And another interesting thing to note about Iggy Scorch too is that I'm also considering this through like a kind of average show player, right? And Iggy Scorch is a very easy character to play. If you ever play this fiery duo, it is so easy to last hit. It's so easy just to consistently poke people out, and that's another reason why they have high sustained damage, is because the high sustained damage is very consistent. Like kills just always just hit them alongside lock onto them. All your stuff is just huge AoEs, a lot of burns, a lot of DOTs, etc. So like when you play this like fiery duo, you'll be you should be surprised when you see these like characters like these have top damage shots. It's because not necessarily because they have the highest like sustain, the highest like burst DPS. It's just because the sustained DPS is very consistent. Like Bellica, you can miss your combo and not get that damage off, right? Hauser, you can just miss your kills, you can miss all these different abilities on these mages. But like for Iggy Scorch, it's like it's really hard not to miss with a lot of these abilities. You have to really throw it like really in the left field to miss like a lot of these abilities. Like I think that's another reason why I consider Iggy to just be a T1 pick. It's very easy to play, his damage is very consistent, and he has very high sustained DPS that makes him really good into sort of this like tank boost meta that is forming right here. And so with that out of the way, before I jump into the rest of the tier list, I want to also do some notable mentions that I normally do in my tier list videos. And we're going to be talking about Grux, because for those who do not know, Grux has just always been a really interesting character, in the sense that, in my opinion, he's like always kind of been staying tier 3, tier 4, and you guys be like, wait a second, why are you bringing him so low? And part of that is due to the fact that in this higher elo, in the like the Diamond Masters, whatever you call it elo, kind of thing, like Grux is just someone that falls off in the sense that he's very easy to deal with and very easy just to like play around him, essentially. So for me, he feels really bad to play compared to my other heroes of Fame, Mal, and Ceres. But for the more average kind of Joe, like when people don't fully grasp the best, most efficient way to deal with the scary Rhino, he's a menace in lane and can be a menace in team fights as well. And so another reason why I'm also considering pointing them out is because we have new items like Bone Seeker that is really coming to play as a very strong booster item. And the interesting thing about Bone Seeker is that it enables these attack speed oriented kind of builds, because like what's always been a very like popular build on Grux is just literally just one Sky Flare on him, which doesn't make sense for a booster kind of character, because Sky Flare offers no durability whatsoever. So almost when you build Sky Flare, you're playing like a little bit greedy, that if you get busted down with Sky Flare, you're done, right? There's nothing you can do about that, because it's just when you build like Sky Flare, you have no defensive stats whatsoever. But you still want to build that, because you want to build into the high attack speed build that Grux just thrives off the best. So with Bone Seeker coming into play in the meta, now you can build these high attack speed bruiser builds without sacrificing durability, because this gives you a whopping 300 max HP, gives you plenty attack speed, and this like passive right here is insane for the 1v1s, right? So because of that one item alone, just making Grux builds just a lot more beefier while still having that high attack speed, but I'm also still evaluating Grux in the more like average show kind of experience. He's definitely a very solid T2 hero. Again, it kind of, like for me, if I'm considering him when I'm at like the kind of players I play with all the time, I put him like T3, T4, right? But like I'm kind of like not the majority representation of the community, right? And I think Grux right now, for the majority of you guys, it's just a menace in lane, and with the new item, he's just doing even better. So one other mention I do want to make is talk about Rampage, because I did mention this sort of getting into like a kind of tank bruiser meta. So like Grux really shows that off with the Bone Seeker new item, and with Rampage it's also the same thing too, because with Giant's Ring, Elephar, Swastika just being these very beefy tank items, we have these tanks like Rampage, Witcher Steel becoming even more popular picks, because now they have a lot more options in the like the respective roles. Because for example, for Witcher, Witcher really likes the item called Oathkeeper, but it's not like really great on him because it gives him like magical power, which he doesn't really want. He just wants like that raw HP defensive stats, but it's a spellplay effect that just works really good in Witcher, so it's just kind of like an awkward spot. You want to build on him, but it's not building into the full tank that he wants to. But now you have an item called Elephar. It's exactly the same kind of effect, a spellplay effect, but now your stats it gives you is way more on the beefier side with physical armor and more health to boot. And so like with those kind of items coming into play, Rampage is one that actually benefits a lot. I think on the last tier list video, I rated him tier 2. I think he's actually a very underrated tank pick in the jungle that's kind of slipping past like the last patch. But I think with new items like Giant's Ring, Elephar, all of that coming into play, I seriously think now there's a lot more spotlight on Rampage, and now I think he's starting to show off like why he's the king of the jungle. I think he takes full advantage of the new tank items. He's a very easy character to pick up and play, and once he just jumps the back line, he just does the Rampage stuff, and it's just really hard to bust him down by. So I think that's just another big highlight I wanted to point out. I think one last highlight I'm just gonna point out right here, it's gonna be the Chimera, because Chimera is someone that also benefits a lot from these bruiser items. So like Berserker's Axe, you look at this, you read this description, that kind of screams Chimera, and very much so, because this item is really nuts on Chimera. And I think Chimera's always been a very solid tier 2, tier 1 hero. It's just a very easy character to play. He's someone that just always consistently perform well. He's just a menace if he gets top tier carry, do a lot of DPS, and now he can do that even better with Berserker's Axe and get more of those ganks off. So I think there's to say with new items especially, Chimera is just a solid tier 1 pick. So like the premium jungle picks this patch, in my opinion, is going to be the Rampage and Chimera. And actually one last mention I would make, this like I promise that last one is Sparrow, because I just kind of remember that like there's a lot of people on initial release that Sparrow is actually a very nutty ADC, so she's a tier 1, tier 2 very easily, right? And part of the reason is because like we got some new ADC items, like Arsenic Quiver, obviously it's a very good item, very Sparrow-like kind of item with all that attack speed and whatnot. But main reason is because of the new Stormbreaker, which with this kind of rework, it's sort of like almost a new item entirely, because they removed the modifier where they convert critical strike chance to on-hit damage, so now you can run full crit builds with Stormbreaker now. And the way you kind of stack this item in terms of like the staff damage is changed. Now it's like a stacking kind of item, like a Mind Razor and a Assert Core kind of item. So of course with Stormbreaker just being that always that golden Sparrow item, people tried the new Stormbreaker on Sparrow, they saw like the kind of DPS she put out, and oh my god, this character is like just absolutely phenomenal. Please nerf her on meta, right? But I'm also gonna, I think I'm gonna say the little opposite right here. I think Sparrow is a tier 3 hero right here. And the main reason is because I'm sort of thinking about this in the more average show kind of experience once again. And the big thing about Sparrow is that like doesn't matter how strong the items are, if the hero's kit itself is just like not there, right? I think Sparrow is like pick that actually becomes much better in high elo when people know how to peel for you, and the ADC that is playing the Sparrow knows how to play around her very immobility kind of weakness, right? But the thing is, people in the like more majority of the player base won't exactly know how to play Sparrow safely, right? Cause like, and for like a solo queue kind of purposes, well, Spare was very reliant on the support team for playing for her, and you have to have phenomenal positioning to be able to take advantage of Spare's kit. I think she's someone that's very widely inconsistent. Like, I'm sure like in like there's could be cases where enemy teams don't exactly focus hard on Spare, and then Spare just free fire her ultimate and just kill a whole bunch of people. And I think those was instances where Spare feels really strong. But I think there's a lot of instances where Spare just feels really weak because she's just really hard to play safe in lane, especially if you have a support that doesn't exactly perform as well as you hope. The peel for her doesn't realize the win condition of Sparrow, because especially Sparrow is just someone that performs the best in the mid to late game, and some people don't realize that, and so when the team is like 2 to 10 on kills, they just FF, right? But they don't realize is that it doesn't matter if you're behind in kills, along the spell keeps farming, she just outscales any ADC by a mile. So like, it's just when you come to, I think just Sparrow is just a hero in my head that has a high potential for DPS and just huge impact team fights, but at the same time it's also the same that she's very easy to shut down, it's very easy to punish her, and then a Sparrow that's 0 and 5 is the very sad Sparrow indeed, right? And so for the purposes of the solo queue list, where I'm trying to look at consistent performing heroes, I think Sparrow is just not consistent enough for me to want to put in tier 2, although her potential is really up there, to say the least. So I actually spent a lot more time than I thought going through all these highlights and whatnot. So for the rest of the tier list, I'm going to go them by order, and I'll try my best to be a little bit concise, but also provide you guys information on these heroes. Countess, tier 3 hero. She's kind of like the Sparrow issue, where like Countess have a lot of high moments, but also a lot of low moments. She's widely inconsistent, but she is kind of easy to pick up and play. It's just like this other mages like Iggy Scorch is a lot easier to play, but also just more consistent performers right here. So when I look at Countess comparison to other mages, she's kind of like right here in the average tier. Next hero is Crunch. I think he's a seriously tier 1 hero. I think he's better than the Grux in my opinion, which I think you can argue like you swap between the two, like you put Grux tier 1 and then like Crunch tier 2. But like, I consider Crunch to just be like an intermediate hero, and since we're talking about like the average player base, I expect most people to be comfortable with these intermediate heroes. Not so much the very advanced heroes like Kalari, but definitely like heroes like Crunch. And so for these kind of players, I think Crunch is seriously just tier 1, just always been very strong in the offlane, just can win any 1v1 90% of the time once he hits 6, and I think he's just someone that's very consistent to play, because he just has that high mobility to escape from ganks, engaging on people, and he just have a lot of control and pressure in lane. Even against the Grux, like all you need to do is when Grux press R, Crunch looks 180, presses on B, and that's all you need to do. You time out the Grux ultimate, and then you re-engage and you slap him in the face, right? So it's very easy to like just play Crunch very dominantly in lane, do so very consistently. It's a big reason why I'm putting him in tier 1 right here. Next up is going to be Decker. I think she's a really solid tier 1 hero as a support. She's just very easy to play in the sense that like she's not someone that's like a Victor where it's like it's very all in or nothing on your hooks. I think Decker is someone that has some of that moments where it can be sometimes hard to land your skill shots, but I think overall she's just a premium support hero, just good into any duel, good with any ADC. She's just someone that you can never go wrong with as a support because of how much utility her kit offers. Next up, it's gonna be Jungle. I think he's gonna be a tier 1 hero right here. And so like this, like I guess in the comparison to Sparrow right here, I think Jungle is a much more consistent ADC in the sense that like he's a lot more self-sufficient and teamfight, in the sense that like his ultimate is very strong, in the sense that like if a Crunch just jumps on you, you just press this R, you push him back and create that distance, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but for an AC it's huge to have that high self peel, because when you ult people back, you're unstoppable. So as soon as you get it off, they can stun you, hook you, wherever. You actually get to fly away from them and reposition yourself, which is very key on ADC. So and if you go more irons like pacifier to do another dash, I need to say Jungle is someone that have a lot of the self peel for himself, but also he has a very powerful gag grenade which completely shut counter certain heroes. Like it counts like the Kiro ultimate, it counts like Crunch, any hero that's very reliant on the ultimate abilities junglers is a very solid counter to, and that's something that ADCs don't actually have, which makes them always a very staple and very strong ADC in these like competitive tournaments or just into just any match regardless. Next up is going to be Female. I think it's a very solid tier 2 hero. I think he's just one of the easiest assassins to play, but also has some of the most deadliest DPS right here. It's really just easy just to go and do your whole combo, like the all AoE, the lot of hitboxes. You don't have to worry about missing stuff. Like if you're missing your E when you're on being someone, then you're doing something very wrong, right? Your average Joe is going to be able to take full advantage of the Female pretty easily. So he's very good in the jungle and also very solid in the offlane as well. I think he's someone that puts a lot of pressure pretty easily, and a lot of offlaners, and when against like some of the more aggressive matchups like Rugs, Female is one of the safest offlanes because on B is an instant dash that's long range. It's just, as long as you have the on B up, it's just so hard to lock down the Female in the offlane. And even if when he gets behind, he plays the whole split push strategy really well. He just like go around the map, keep pushing lanes, keep stealing farm, go to mid lane, go off lane. He can do all of that stuff way faster than anyone else in the game. So you don't have to even play Female in a sense you're gonna be 20-0, but you play Female as that annoying split pusher menace. That's also very safe to do so. Next up, it's gonna be Gachi. I think she's just an average mage overall. She's not like bad, or she's not like hard to use, but she's just kind of there, if that makes sense. She has some really nice counter picks against certain heroes, right? But I think in comparison to other mages, if you're looking to have a lot more impact, a lot more straightforward impact, or just want to look for more safer mages, then Gachi's not quite that mage for you, but she's still a solid hero all around in my opinion. Next up, it's going to be Gideon, a tier 1 hero of course, very easy mage to use, and also one of the safest mid laners. Imagine trying to gank a Gideon mid, like it's just, unless he's pushed up to your tower, then it's like, you just cannot lock him down, because in the middle lane, he presses E, he immediately gets back to his tower. It's just so stupidly hard it is to try and punch a Gideon mid game, and because of that, that makes it a very friendly mage to play for like into these for this like majority of the player base, right? If you have a character that's like very hard to like punch in lane like a Female, then like this is a hero that's gonna really be up there, along as their impact is right there strongly. Next up is gonna be Greystone. He's gonna be a tier 2 hero in my opinion. He's someone that's like, of course, very easy. It's like one of the best starting heroes besides Steel for offlaners. But also, he's just someone that's always just solid. Like, unless you just fall behind really severely, he's someone that's gonna be really strong just in the split pushing. He's really strong in the team fight. Just imagine Greystone diving. He eats up all the DPS CC, plus ultimate, and just had second life essentially, right? So I think Greystone is just a hero that's always gonna be really solid and just really straightforward to play, making him a very consistent pick in the offlane and jungle. Next up is going to be Howitzer. I think he's going to be a solid tier hero. He's much like the Gideon, where he's actually a very safe laner, and also a very he's a mage that just dominates in lane because he has a very annoying poke. His ultimate excels in the 1v1s and avoids a lot of abilities. I think just like he kind of lacks a lot of that huge teamfight presence as these other mages like the Iggy Scorch, the Gideon, that have like big teamfight presence with like the big powerful ultimates or just a lot of zone control. But Howitzer doesn't really have that. He just really excels in the 1v1s more than anything. So like he's very solid, sure, but sometimes he's not always the best pick for your team cup. If you're looking for a mage that really needs that big AoE damage, then Howitzer is just not that pick for you. You have to just pick someone else, right? Next up is Kalari for hero. She's a hero that has a very high skill ceiling, even though she doesn't look like it. She's very easy to punish, and a lot of her stuff is very kind of skill shot oriented. It's just like you don't see too many Kalari players use her to the best of her ability, right? She's a very advanced hero in my opinion. So for like the more average Joe, Kalari is not going to be that as straightforward of a hero to play, whereas Female as an assassin is a lot more straightforward, a lot more easy to pick up. So in terms of consistency, Kalari is really not up there, so that always takes her down a notch. But also I think it's just like with this kind of tank bruiser meta, she doesn't do as good into that as well, because it's really hard to like look for angles or picks when you as a hero just cannot deal with these tanks. Like assassins are not always the best people that can deal with tanks, right? But like some assassins like the Collide, like the Fame Mountain counts, have ways to poke them out or deal with them, whereas Collide gets hard shut down way more than these other assassin picks. So I think for all those reasons, plus just being just a harder hero to execute properly, I think she's just a T4 hero right here. Next up is going to be Kira, and I'm actually going to put in the T2 hero. I think she's starting to get back at the meta side of things because she's been kind of staying Tier 3 for the longest time. But with like the new items like Stormbreaker, just like now being working in crit builds, it's actually a huge plus for Kira because Kira really lacks wave clear for those who ever play her. It's just like, doesn't matter how hard you hit, her wave clear is horrendous mid to late game and makes it really hard to play in certain matchups like Trim Blast that places one Q, instant clears wave, and you're stuck there for like 10 seconds trying to clear wave, right? It's just not a great feeling. But now you can just build stuff, you can build Stormbreaker, solve that issue, and still build your full hard hitting crit build, right? That's one major issue that was fixed for her with that one item alone. But then also another reason is because she's just a safe laner. Like the dash alone makes her very safe, very sufficient, and team wise, just being able to quickly dash, reposition, or play it more safe if you have to in lane makes her just a very consistent solo queue ADC, and that's why I kind of favor her in the T2 as well. Next up is going to be Belica. I think she's going to be a T1 hero pick right here. She's very, very strong in the mid lane as always, but also very good in the support as well. I think she's someone you can't go wrong with because like her knockup is seriously really, really deadly, and it's just an ability that's just not that hard to like land, right? It's a reason why she's always been like a kind of high prior pick in competitive scene. It's just she's a hero that has great flexibility in mid and support. It's just she have a kit that just makes her excel in team fights, right? I almost was sort of considering T2 because like she kind of falls in that vein. It's like she's someone you want to play very aggressively and try to look for this Q picks. But honestly, I think it doesn't matter if the Belica is like 4 and 10. That knockup is seriously dang annoying, and it could be the one ability that can just win you fights with one solid knockup. So because of those reasons, I think she's still a very solid T1 hero for the majority of the player base. Next up is gonna be Morgish, and I think she's gonna be a T3 hero. She's a very easy character, very consistent performing hero like Iggy in the sense that her DOT is very consistent, she's very good into takes and bruisers, so why I'm putting her T3. And I think part of the reason is because she's someone that can be pretty easy just to punish, right? Like she has very low mobility, so like a crunch that just bears down mid lane, there's nothing Morgish can do about it. When Beta jumps at her, there's nothing she can do about it, right? At least with Iggy, it's like when people jump on him, he can immediately knock them back with his ultimate, and if anything, if people are trying to dive to Iggy, that's like all his turrets, his RB, his E, everything they're walking into and taking tons of damage, whereas Morgish doesn't retaliate as good as the Iggy, right? And so because of that, I think she's just someone that's a tier 3 hero. I think if you want to play a DOT mage, you 100% pick Iggy over Morgish 90% of the time, in my opinion, of course. Next up is going to be Murdoch. He's a very solid tier 2 hero, which has always been a very self-sufficient ADC, knockback mine, snipes that go across the map to connect your kills. Just very, very solid ADC. You can never go wrong with the Murdoch right here. He's kind of like the very staple solid ADC. Like he's kind of like the best representation of that almost, in my opinion. But he's not quite a T1 pick because like other ADCs in T1 just offers a lot more than Murdoch, while also offering a lot of the benefits he does offer. Next up is going to be Mirio. She's going to be a T4 hero pick. She's another hero that's not like, she's kind of easy, straightforward to play, but not quite. She's almost in that intermediate level because the way her global ultimate works. So take full advantage of Mirio, you need to have some very clutch Mirio ultimates and very good macro or map awareness kind of thing. So that can be not so easy to be grasped for like the more average Joe kind of player. But also it's just one of the reasons why she's really tacked down to T4 is because her laning phase is really hard to play in the sense that she's actually really easy to run over in the early game. Like you think of all the supports like the Decker, the Richter, and all of them, they have a pretty easy time just doing the Mirio, right? Because like crowd control is just so valuable on supports, and that's kind of like why Deco's just immediately T1. She just has an abundance of that, whereas Miria has none. And so when you have no crowd control whatsoever on the character, besides maybe like technically Miria has crowd control on the ultimate, but that's not part of her basic flow. She's just someone that shields a lot. So when you have a character like that, then she demands a lot more player skill, especially in terms of positioning, timings of your shields, etc. And so when you have all that high skill requirements, you're someone that can sometimes feel lackluster for the more average player. Like if you stun someone, that you get that immediate impact, and then you just win team fights off that. Whereas Miria is like, you don't feel that necessarily. Like you have to have someone that can actually carry team fights, like Chimera, just 1v5. Like she's someone that can enable like your carries, your win conditions really well, but only if you actually have the win condition. If everything's just kind of neutral, she doesn't feel as good of a kind of pick, right? Like if you want to have a lot more impacts in team fights as support, I wouldn't pick Mirio. If you're like queuing with other people, if you're playing with some very good players, then Mirio starts to feel much better. But that's not going to happen all the time, especially in this more like gold elo, whatever you want to call it, for the majority of the player-based experience. Next up, it's going to be Narbash. He's going to be a solid tier 2 hero. He's someone that there's a lot more people looking at him with the new wind color item. Now he's just shielding people, grants them bonus movement speed, and these items are just so good on Narbash. So Narbash builds are definitely much better with that one item alone. And I think he's just someone that's always been so easy to play. Everything's just AoE. The big thing when playing Narbash is you don't want to frontline with him. I think a lot of people fall in that trap as Narbash is a frontliner where, well, he's all in the middle of the pack. Well, he wants the Chimera to steal being the frontline. And so the Narbash wants to be behind them, but also in front of the ADCs, right? So it's very in the middle of the team fights, which is not always the easiest to position like that, right? So like, I think he's someone that's very easy, very straightforward to play, but sometimes he has some moments where he kind of feels bad, but that may not feel as obvious because he's someone that does require really good team positioning and very good single out targets and knowing when to just go in with your ultimate. Next up is gonna be Faye. She's very much like the Mirio will. She requires like what you call someone on your team to perform really well and just hyper enable them, and she doesn't have that huge crowd control like stuns all over the place like other heroes. However, she's someone that offers a lot more unique strengths compared to Mirio in the sense that you can just yoink someone and just pull them to safety, which is a very powerful unique skill of Faye's. Well, you can just play from behind your ADC, which normally you don't want to play behind, you want to stand next to them, but Faye is someone that's actually really beneficial to playing from behind, because if they merely jump on your ADC, you can immediately just pull them back to safety, right? So a lot of the times the best way to show off the face is to focus her first, but when you focus her first, then you're not using your CC damage on your ADC, and that ADC can have time to get away or to counter engage and do a lot of DPS to you kind of thing. I still think she's not like a quite tier 2 hero because she's someone that requires someone that she needs to hyper enable, or like she doesn't have like a strong utility kit in the sense like she doesn't have the stuns, and stuns are just king of the game for supports. She has a nice route to lock down people, not quite the huge, like she doesn't have huge swings in team fights, if that makes sense. She's not like a steal that goes in ults everyone. She's just someone that hypernases someone and just keep that one ally really safe, but can do that really well. Next up is gonna be Revenant, and he's gonna be a tier 2 hero right here. She's actually someone that's actually extremely kind of gross, because once you get to mid to late game, you ult people, you do full all attacks Q, they're just dead. He's that ADC that really just bursts down people really fast. His damage, late game damage, is just absurd. However, he's someone that requires someone that knows how to pilot him really well, and he's definitely someone that's not the safest in lane, although he is safer technically than like Sparrow in the sense that like if you have 3 people gank your lane, ult the support, walk the tower, you're safe, right? You have ways to play around super aggressive teams, right? But you still like he's a hero that requires a lot more player skill expression and how you position, how you take advantage of your aggression, and how you just burst down people, right? So like he's seriously really strong, but I can't put him T1 for this more like gold elo, more this majority player-based experience. He's a very solid ADC, but I think other ADCs in the tier 1 are just more consistent performers, a lot more safer picks that makes them more consistent for people to perform well with, in my opinion. Next up, it's gonna be Victor. He's gonna be a solid tier 2 hero. He's just always been someone that's been always really solid because he's that hero that's like, you land one hook, you win the game. It's literally like no exaggeration that like doesn't matter if he's far behind. One solid hook post 30 minutes in the game just wins you team fights. It's just that strong. However, you do need to land it, and of course, like if you're not playing him as well as you're hoping on the game, you're missing 80% of the hooks. Kind of start to feel bad, right? But we're talking about kind of majority play base. I think majority play base at this point can play the Victor hero pretty well, and says it may not land all the hooks, but they should land the ones that really matters, or land most of them, right? And it's also that, and just he's someone that's just really good flexible wise. He's very solid in the jungles, offlane, and support, of course. So he's just someone that if you want to kind of master one hero or play one hero a lot, Victor is excellent for the fact that he can be flexed into 3 different worlds very strongly. Next up is gonna be Sarah. She's gonna be a tier 2 hero. She's very much like the Chimera, where she kind of just runs down people 1v5, does a lot of damage. I think she's someone that's a bit easier to punish compared to some of these bruisers. Like if she gets CC locked, she's just dead, right? And she's very easy to just kind of like bully out or bust down in team fights. But a Sarah that's just left uncontested, it's just a very deadly menace to reckon with. So I think she's just a very solid tier 2 hero for people if they're looking to kind of carry the games and just like 1v5 in team fights. Next up is gonna be Sevvar. He's gonna be a solid tier 3 hero. So like here's the thing about Sevvar is that ever since he got his nerfs adjustments to how his whole stacking thing affects, he's someone that's a lot easier to just punish in general. Like he's someone that you just can't blind pick in offlane as much, because if you go against a Grux, a Fang Mao, like just any of these high aggressive offlane picks, good luck, because you're not gonna farm as well as you hope, and when you don't farm as well as you hope, you actually have very squishy Sevvar, and that makes him feel very like lackluster in these team fights. And I mean, he's also solid in the jungle as well, but I think compared to like Victor and Rampage, they're definitely a lot more consistent picks. They don't have the requirements of farming soul stacks to become a very strong hero. And of course, like to take advantage of your passive, you have to be able to actually last hit very consistently. So unless you really master Sevvar or play like 20 plus a lot of games on this hero, he's someone that is just not going to be as like easy to get into or as impactful easily compared to these other heroes. Next up is gonna be Shinbi, and I think she's actually a very solid tier 2 hero. She's someone that's always been solid in the tier 3 for a while, especially with the nerfs that did her mana company. But I think with the new items, she's actually a very solid tier 2 hero. And the new items I'm talking about is Open Alignment. It's an item that's very interesting in the sense that this is a heavily scaling item where like essentially once you fully stack this item up from like farming and all that, for each hero level you gain a bunch of free stats, and that's insane like how much stats you can get from this. However, not every hero can take full advantage, because one, you have to be someone that seals the magical power, so that eliminates all physical scaling heroes. Two, you have to be a hero that actually likes a lot of these stats, like you like the max health, like the max mana, which like for mages, they necessarily don't really care about the max health, although it's actually pretty nice. They don't really care about like the fact that you restore missing health, right? That's sort of more of a bruiser identity with this kind of ability, right? So one of the few people that can take full advantage of Overalignment, in my opinion, is going to be the Countess and the Shinbi. And so even though Overalignment is really strong, I still think Countess still like tier 3, because you're still a hero that's really easy to punish. However, Shinbi is someone that's very hard to punish as an offlane. She's always been someone that can farm very safely and do it very consistently. She's a hero that you actually encourage to stay in offlane a lot, because her split pushing is very strong, has always been, right? So with like items like Open Alignment now being the thing, now you can play into the scaling part even heavier, because if you go like the Open Alignment, go Circle, Megacosm, your scaling is just really high on Shinbi especially. And so if you just play the whole split push strategy, you just play the whole scaling game with Open Alignment, you're gonna have it like a split pusher that just got even better with the new item. So I think for that fact alone, I think she's starting to become a better hero that's going to be rising up in the meta, and she's always been a hero that's easy to pick up and play. And so I think she's going to be a hero that a lot of you guys are going to be finding a lot of consistent use out of, in my opinion. Next up is going to be Steel. No Christian as tier 1 hero has always been. He's just a hero that just always does good, and to regard the matchup like just a ultimate that just can knock up people, huge AoE, a lot of stuns, a lot of mobility, a lot of tankiness. He's just an absurd character, has always been, and with new items like all the Foster Alert, Elephant, Giant's Wing, he just got even better. So I don't have to comment much about why exactly Steel is just really absurd and will always be a tier 1 hero in my book. Next up is going to be the Faye. She's going to be a tier 3 hero. She's someone that I want to say volatile hero, but she's someone that's very easy to punish in lane. Like, just imagine a lot of the times you play Faye mid and then you get a little welcome message from Crunch just bowing down you in mid lane and there's nothing you can do about it, right? She's that hero that's just really easy to punish in lane compared to these other heroes. But if you let her scale to mid to late game and get that very nasty 3-man, 5-man ultimate, she's gonna be extremely strong. But so I guess she's that hero that's just not as consistent as I hope, so I can't justify her to go on tier 2 even though her ultimate is very deadly. Plus there's a lot of cleanse items in the game that you can completely counter Faye, so I think the fact that Faye is just someone that can be easy to camp and punish early on, and the fact you can completely counter her ultimate by just pressing like your active cleanse item just makes Faye a wildly inconsistent hero, where she had a lot of high moments but also a lot of low moments as well. Next up is going to be Trimblast. He's a solid tier 1 hero, so I consider Trimblast and Jungle to be the best solo queue ADCs in my opinion, with Trimblast having just high mobility, some of the best mobility in the game, and that alone just makes him really great into any matchup. He's someone that does the best solo. Like, people try to run at him, he can kite people out, dash away, and keep creating distance that no ADCs can do nearly as well. Another big reason is because all his abilities are long range. So imagine a lot of situations where sometimes it'd be hard to walk up the wave and last hit. Well, Trimblast can literally just chuck a grenade across lane and last hit that way. He has a kit that's very long range, and that allows him to always farm consistently, be able to interact with people consistently and safely. And the fact that his wave play is just absurd. Like, there's so many instances where he completely shut off heroes like Kyo purely from the fact he can instantly clear waves early, push in the wave, and have high prior to either initiate trades or just go on objectives. Next up is gonna be Ceres. He's gonna be a T2 hero. He's someone he's actually like in high elos, one of the best solo queue picks in my opinion, because he's a huge lane dominator. However, to play into that, you need to of course know how to play Ceres kit really well. He's not like a Grux or Greystone. His favorite like W key, hold, left click, use your abilities, you expect to win fights. Ceres just does not do that. He's someone you play a lot these fights a lot more meticulously. You need to like think a little bit more how you engage, how you kite out people, bait some stuff out, disengage, re-engage, etc, right? So I think he's a hero that, although he's very strong in lane, a very solid just hero overall, he has a kit that's not as straightforward in the sense that it's not as obvious what you need to do with this hero. And so like, he's someone that first 5 games kind of feel meh, but after like 20 more plus games, he starts to feel much better to play, and that's when he becomes a much better hero to play into. Last but not least, it's gonna be Waste, tier 3 hero. He's the true representation of what it means to have a hero that's very bipolar, and in the hands of a very skilled Waste player. Tier 1, like his burst damage and like his presence fights, it's just absurd, right? But like, if you miss one snipe, one kill, DPS just falls off a cliff, right? He's a very like high risk, not high risk, but it's a very like high skill, high reward kind of hero, right? He's a hero that demands a lot of skill to be able to use, right? And if you don't have that high skill, he starts to fall feels really badly, right? But yeah, someone that puts in a lot of time and effort to mastering this hero, then he starts to feel a much better hero. But for like the average show, he just kind of right? But yeah, that's gonna be my tier list for version 0.13. That's actually a lot longer tier list than I anticipated. I always try to like make it my goal to make like 20-25 minute tier list, but then I go on like a 10-minute talk about one hero, trying to explain really the ins and outs, and I just get sidetracked and all that stuff. So I hope you guys don't mind me doing this long tier list. I think some of you guys really appreciate it, but I do realize sometimes I start to kind of over explain some stuff when you guys probably just want more to show the details, if that makes sense. So definitely let me know down in the comments what kind of format you guys like. Do you guys really like this long-winded kind of explanation to really know the nitty-gritty details of these heroes, or you want to see a lot more like shorter, concise tier list videos where if I just want to know the general gist of the meta and why, I can get that in 20 minutes and not sit through like a 40-minute video, if that makes sense. So really appreciate the feedback, and I really appreciate you guys stopping by and supporting the channel. If you have not already, please subscribe to the channel so you guys are always up to date on the latest news and the latest builds that I usually will cook up for you guys. So I really appreciate you guys stopping by, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.